While some marriages stay strong after 20 years, others deteriorate after such a long time. This marriage, well, it led to a plot to murder. The defense of Marguerite Bork wanted the court to know that Terrance Bork was depressed about his deteriorating physical condition and drank antifreeze to commit suicide. But did he really? To understand this next crime story, we must start from the beginning. Terrance Bork was from New York. He grew up in Rome. By the age of 31, on August 30th, 1985, Terrance Bork was united in marriage with Marguerite Dawn Williams. Dawn was older than Terrance by about 10 years. The union bore one child, Terrance James Bork II. The couple stayed in Oneida County, New York. Terrance Sr. was a rural mail carrier employed at the Ava Post Office for 15 years. Their marriage lasted 20 years until Terrance was pronounced dead at a hospital on September 20th, 2005, at age 50. For several years leading up to that day, Terrance was constantly suffering from unexplained dizzy spells and excruciating headaches. He often fell a lot and would frequently feel pain throughout his body. However, his condition took a turn for the worse on September 19, 2005. The couple was visiting Terrance's mother's residence when he fell seriously ill. The next morning, he was rushed to the hospital. The level of ethylene glycol found in Terrance Bork's body suggested he had been poisoned. Authorities began their investigation with a high suspicion of his wife. They found bottles of antifreeze at the home where the couple reside. Fast-tracked to 2007, and the trial for Marguerite Bork, age 62, was underway. She was being accused of slipping a fatal dose of antifreeze into Terrance's drink while at the visit to his mom. The court proceedings revealed a great deal about their marriage and the mostly circumstantial evidence the prosecution had against Mrs. Bork. There were accusations of an affair, of lying, and of Terrance being poisoned for life insurance benefit. The prosecution said Bork killed her husband to collect life insurance after finding out he was having an affair with a friend and planning to leave her. During the court proceedings, it was revealed by several life insurance company employees that Marguerite was entitled to $342,000 after her husband's passing. Within a year, she had withdrawn roughly $100,000 from her husband's death benefits. Terrance Bork died after consuming a drink laced with odorless, sweet-tasting antifreeze in September 2005. The medical evidence indicating poison was heard in court, along with the presence of antifreeze bottles at home. Though prosecutors couldn't connect how the antifreeze was brought, or when exactly it was used at his mother's house, they presented the case that this wasn't the first attempt to take Terrance's life. Trial testimony showed he had been hospitalized about 6 months earlier with the same symptoms. They claimed Marguerite Bork served Terrance a drink around that time. The defense saw this as a means of presenting their case of suicide. Suicide is certainly a very real possibility in this case, the defense indicated. According to attorney Donald Gerace, a sickly 50-year-old man committed suicide. However, prosecutors reiterated Marguerite Bork's actions went beyond how an innocent person would behave. She lied about her daughter's death to an insurance manager and went as far as suggesting unrealistic medical explanations for her husband's death, such as eating too many grapes. Assistant District Attorney Lori Lisi knew the case was circumstantial at best, and that any conviction would depend on connecting all the dots. When the jurors got the case, they deliberated less than 3 hours before convicting Bork of second-degree murder. Bork, who proclaimed her innocence in the death of her husband, faced 25 years to life in prison at the sentencing. Marguerite Bork was sentenced to 25 years in prison. She had planned to appeal the conviction, citing that it was not a fair trial. In 2012, her lawyer filed a petition, contending that the evidence was legally insufficient to support the conviction. Bork claimed her 2007 trial in Oneida County Court was stacked with conflicting testimonies, ineffective counsel, and inflammatory remarks by witnesses. Mrs. Bork believed that the prosecution was not able to prove that she carried any poison of the sort to her mother-in-law's house, and that the medical evidence suggested the poisoned drink was served the following day when he was rushed to the hospital and not the evening before when she visited. As it relates to the testimonies, She claimed they went from one person saying she wasn't behaving like a wife would do if they lost their husband, to another person who was supposed to be Terrance Bork's lover, saying he needed to be protected from his wife. A third witness, who was at Bork's funeral, recalled Marguerite, telling her she needed a hitman. Jurors were told to disregard many of those remarks at the time. Marguerite had hoped that a U.S. District Court judge would give her another shot at proving her innocence. However, that was not the case. Senior U.S. District Judge James Singleton, Jr., ruled on December 29, 2014, that Bork, now aged 70, failed to show that any of those statements prevented her from having a fair trial. Given the evidence presented, a jury could have reasonably found that Marguerite had the intent, access, and opportunity to poison her husband. Singleton also wrote in his 32-page decision that as circumstantial as the evidence was, it spoke for itself.